All right, hey guys. So I'm going to talk about Italy, and kind of like Claire said, you might kind of see some parallels between Franco's dictatorship and what I'm going to talk about, which is Mussolini's dictatorship. So on the whole, today Italy is a modern Western state, and so we like to think about their delicious food and their pretty sights more than anything else, and we might not really think that they've struggled to preserve human rights the same way that we might kind of pinpoint other countries that we know about. However, under fascist rule, Italy did struggle. They didn't have full human rights during this time. So to give you a little bit of history, fascism is a system of government. It was formed in Italy by Benito Mussolini in 1921. So it began as the National Fascist Party. It was a political party that Mussolini formed. It was one of many, and started gaining a fair amount of support. And just a year after its formation, after the party's formation, Mussolini, with as well as like a lot of intimidation and illegal actions and violence, but he forced the king. There was a king in Italy at the time. He didn't have very much power, but forced him to make Mussolini prime minister. And so Mussolini was only 39 years old at the time, which is young to take office. But he was a very good public speaker. He used a lot of gestures that we kind of associate with Italians, and was very convincing and good at getting his ideas spread and widely accepted. And he did this in his first couple years, kind of in a higher up position. So probably until about 1923, 24, the fascist party had a fair amount of support. And then around 1924, Mussolini started gravitating towards a dictatorship. He started taking pretty drastic measures and putting a lot of laws into place that opposed human rights and universal rights, which we'll get into in a little bit. So before I get into it, I just want to say there's so much information about the fascist party, fascist rule, that we could talk about and examine how it broke and restricted human rights. But to narrow it down for time's sake, I'm today going to talk about one particular kind of central outlook of fascism, and how this idea kind of got translated into actions that ended up taking away people's rights. So this, one of the most important fascism beliefs, kind of what the party and ideology is based around, is the rejection of individualism and the importance of the state. So I want you all to kind of think about America and how important the individual is to us. It's one of our cultural values that we're responsible for ourselves, that the choices we make shape who we are. And taking personal initiative on an individual level is really important in America. For example, I can't count how many times I've been told to be a leader and not a follower, and that making your own choices is extremely important. Being an individual is really important. And you guys might have heard the same thing, whether it be from family members or somebody older than you. You might have also rolled your eyes. I know I've done that in the past. But your perspectives might kind of change a little bit if you think about situations when people were or are told or forced to do the opposite, when they're told that their individual being isn't important and that they shouldn't be an individual. And that's pretty much what Mussolini did during his time as Italy's dictator. He continually said that individuals need to give up their private needs and rights in order to serve the needs of the whole society, in order to serve the state. And so the state under fascism was kind of the most important level of society. Individuals were just these little parts that made up the state. But they were not allowed any autonomy. They were supposed to do exactly what the state told them to do. and they weren't allowed to oppose it, to speak out, to even voice their own opinions. So y'all might not have looked at the Universal Declaration of Human Rights yet, but Article 18 says that everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. Along those lines, Article 19 says that everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression. But kind of as I've been mentioning, these are rights that Mussolini was directly opposing. He was not letting Italians have these universal rights. Mussolini shut down certain newspapers that he thought might print articles or information that opposed his party. He actually also made fascism the only legal political party. So even if citizens were given the choice to vote, there was nobody else that they could vote for. You were to be fascist, and that was it. He also outlawed labor unions and strikes. So people in their workplace had no voice. They, if they spoke up about mistreatment or wanting higher wages, they were going to lose their job. And so he did all this and kept people under control by making them fearful of going to jail or being hurt if they spoke out and spoke their opinions. And it was just definitely breaking universal human rights for the period of his dictatorship. Fortunately, his dictatorship came to an end after World War II. After World War II, Italy, they were struggling to repair damages from the war to their cities. They were an overall poor country, but they were no longer struggling to preserve their human rights. They became a republic again. And today, Italy has full universal rights. There are protests all over the country, whether it be for the treatment of refugees or workplace issues. University students love to organize rallies and voice their opinion. And there are definitely labor unions. The employees of public transportation go on strike quite often. So I've been over there and taken a train and not paid attention and got stuck in another city because the trains, they're taking a stand for themselves and the trains don't run while they're doing that. And so I guess just in general, it's important to keep in mind that we are fortunate to have this ability to speak out, to stand up for ourselves, and to make sure that we're keeping our rights intact because across history, as we've seen in Spain and Italy and across the world even today, that's not always the case.